Muhammad Ali, one of my great heroes, had a great line in the 70s when he was asked, how many sit-ups do you do? He said, I don't count my sit-ups. I only start counting when it starts hurting. When I feel pain, that's when I start counting, because that's when it really counts.
If you're familiar with the industry at all, you've probably overheard the claim that muscle damage is a requirement for muscle growth, and that soreness is a good indicator of that damage. So then chasing DOMS or delayed onset muscle soreness after a workout would in that way mean more muscle growth, right? This sounds logical, however, it's actually a very common misconception. Technically, DOMS is primarily caused by type 1 muscle tears, a minor degree of fiber damage that typically occurs during eccentric contractions, or when a muscle is contracting while at the same time lengthening. This sounds like a magic trick, and it kinda is, but a perfect example is the bicep curl. While curling, your bicep muscle is lengthening, but it's also still contracting to control the weight up. Otherwise, you would just drop the weight with every rep. Eccentric contractions put extra tension on the proteins within the muscle and cause tiny tears that trigger inflammation within its connective tissue. These tiny tears activate nociceptors, the neurons responsible for sensing pain that can vary between mild stiffness to limping up a staircase. But it's really nothing too serious, because on a microscopic level, even if you're really sore, it doesn't necessarily mean you've completely destroyed your muscles, despite how it can sometimes feel. In fact, many studies prove that muscle damage is very poorly correlated with reports of soreness, and that muscle growth can and does occur in the absence of damage, even though yes, muscle damage plays a role in growth to some degree. I know, bear with me though. We don't yet know the optimal damage required for hypertrophy. Probably there exists a limit. However, when that threshold is reached, it doesn't necessarily mean that more muscle damage will cause more muscle growth. In fact, in most cases, it could be counterintuitive because damage causes proteins within the muscle to break down, and growth only happens when there's more protein generated than there is lost. To make matters worse, studies suggest DOMS could actually hinder your next workout and ability to grow by altering motor patterns in subsequent workouts and, in severe cases, decrease force capacity up to 50%. But back to my point. When you really sit down and think about it, there's a lot of evidence to suggest an inverse relationship between soreness and growth on multiple levels. For example, DOMS is usually more severe at the start of a training cycle, but visible growth is typically seen at the end when the soreness is already dissipated. Inversely, people who train infrequently, such as one body part per week, often report intense late onset muscle soreness, but many of them don't grow very well. Secondly, some muscle groups rarely ever get sore, but they grow just fine. The shoulders are a great example of this. And inversely to that, some studies have even shown the presence of DOMS after long distance running, an exercise that causes minimal muscle growth, if any at all. And lastly, training experience has a direct correlation with muscle soreness, and this is consistent with a repeated bout effect. Soreness tends to disappear when a muscle group is well trained in the same exercise, yet it delivers impressive growth, as we can see anecdotally, and you've probably experienced yourself. All of these factors suggest that muscle soreness has very little to do with growth, and in most cases you actually increase your chance of muscle growth with less soreness. So then the question becomes whether you should lift while you're sore. It doesn't seem to make muscle damage worse per se, but it does risk prolonging the recovery process and muscle remodeling. And while some degree of damage and inflammation can be necessary to stimulate muscle remodeling, chasing DOMS to the degree of needing a full week to recover is probably doing more harm than good. Severe damage can cause muscle fibers to undergo cell death, or what they call skeletal fiber necrosis. And in extreme cases, exercise-induced muscle damage can even lead to renal failure. It's rare, but it's another indicator that some is good, more is not better, and too much could be pretty awful. To quote Greg Nuckols directly, the no pain, no gain theory is wrong, and pursuing DOMS for any consideration doesn't give any advantage on performance, hypertrophy, or any other kind of progression. Hey everyone, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I first just want to say that I'm sitting here laughing at myself because I thought this would be a really quick topic to do, and here I am another 3 weeks later and like 70 hours of post-production work between the research and the editing, and I'm finally getting it out there. And originally I chose this topic for a few reasons. So one is that I've always been interested in this, so I've never really found out the answer or the scientific answer for why. But I saw two articles. So one was from Lyle McDonald, and then the other one was from Nuckols, and I'll link both of those in the bottom or even off to the side. But they're both great articles on why the muscle soreness doesn't necessarily indicate muscle gain. And I read those articles and I thought it was like really, really cool and really interesting. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this video, but it's probably only gonna be like 2 or 3 minutes, but that's okay. It's a nice little tiny video to do and to practice some editing in between the bigger ones. But here I am like a month later, and I'm finally getting out there to you guys. So I want to thank you so much for being patient with me in between these videos. And I think a big part of it is that I get really caught up in the details of the editing. So the bad side is that it takes a while to get a video out, but the good side is that I think that I'm improving with each video, and it gives me time to try to focus on a lot of the details that I think make it a good video. And I also don't want to mess up on the research. So if I feel rushed, I don't want to miss something that I could have put in there as an annotation, or you know, try to put bad information out there. Because the biggest thing with this channel that I really like is that I can choose topics that I'm interested in and get to a point where I feel comfortable enough to educate someone else. And I think that's really cool. So I want to continue to do that. And at the same time, thank you so much for being patient. And the subscribers that have stayed, I think I hit 500 at this point, which is amazing to me because I wasn't sure what the actual response would be to these kind of videos. So the fact that most of you stayed and it continues to grow from there is really cool to me. So thank you. Thank you for supporting this channel. And that's not a train, that's a like motorbike, but if that starts up, I'm just gonna keep going. So I don't even know if you guys can hear that anyway. I also want to thank my friend Rachel. She's the one that was in this video with me, and I recorded it once and I looked at the footage and I'm like, oh, you know what, it just didn't come out exactly the way that I thought it would. I think I want to do it again. And she's just as enthusiastic to do it the second time as she was the first time. So that's a good friend. That's a good workout partner. So I just want to thank her so much for doing that with me. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, please like the video. That really helps me a lot. What that actually does is just give YouTube the kind of algorithm to show the videos more. And that would really mean a lot to me. So please give it a thumbs up. Please comment down below if you have any questions. If you go to the link that has the script, I also have everything annotated in there. All the titles to every research and everything. If you're interested, go check that out. And yeah, so I hope you guys really liked it. And I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully not in another month. but yeah, love you guys.